Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, we are going to talk a little bit about how to integrate your shadow self. So I'm going to go through with you what this means, and I'm going to share with you a really effective exercise that you can use, and this will help you to stop being so triggered by other people as often as well. So we're going to do a deep dive into that. If you're new to this channel, I create daily breakthrough videos to help you learn powerful tools to upgrade your subconscious mind so that you can upgrade your entire life and your relationships, being an inclusive part of that. So let's talk about this topic. First and foremost, what is the shadow? So the shadow is a term originally coined by Carl Jung, and he basically talked about how this is a part of ourselves that we try to deny or hide and even try to repress. Now, this is something that we're doing to a certain degree without our own conscious awareness of it. And essentially, this is based on conditioned feelings we adopt from childhood based on the emotional associations we build in. So let me just show you, for example. Let's say that you grow up in a family that's constantly shaming people for being loud, and they're saying loud is obnoxious. Well, the emotional associations you build next to the trait of being loud are negative. And so you learn, oh, this part will, if I express this trait, this will stop me from getting love. This will stop me from getting approval. This will make me maybe even a candidate to be abandoned or rejected by my caregivers or my family. So you learn at a very young age, when you start getting sort of these programs, certain traits are good and make you worthy of love and acceptance, and other traits are bad and make you unworthy of that. But really, this is a whole bunch of subjective stuff, because you may grow up in a different family, or somebody else may grow up in a different family, and they may learn being loud means you're outgoing and you're sociable, and being loud gets you attention and makes you cool. And so they can build in positive emotional associations. Nothing changed about the character trait of being loud, except the subjective associations built into them. So when we build these negative emotional associations into traits, we start to push them down. And this becomes a coping mechanism that our subconscious mind adopts, basically, without us even focusing on it too much. It's not something we're consciously and premeditatively doing. And so what happens is we have all of these subconscious strategies that are developing to reject parts of ourselves that could be expressed, even things that we may feel compelled to naturally express. Some people, it's more in their nature to be louder and more outgoing. But if they learn, oh, this is going to get me shamed, we sort of have to push this stuff down further. Now, the really important part of this that you want to recognize is that if you're doing this, you're essentially rejecting a part of yourself. Right? And so the denser our shadow is, the more rejected traits that we've pushed down and made ourselves unworthy of expressing, or we make it mean that we're bad if we express this, or we're shameful in some way. The more of these that we have, the more we start diminishing our self-worth over time. The denser the shadow, the more we struggle with self-worth. There's a really strong correlation there. And so shadow work can be a really powerful tool to actually help transform your self-worth, because as we start to stop seeing traits as being bad and worthy of shaming or disapproval, and we start to see there's different places that we can use traits in different times, and we start to be more accepting of our own traits and the things that we feel compelled personally to express, the more we get a sense of internal approval in the relationship to ourselves, which actually creates a deeper sense of our own confidence. So it's a really important part to recognize about the correlation of how our shadow self impacts us. And we can also find that when we have a really dense shadow, we can get into self-loathing, because there are many parts of ourselves we've deeply repressed or loathed. And so it's a really strong sort of association there. Anyways, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you see actually how to integrate your shadow self in a small exercise. And please keep in mind as I'm going through this, if this is something that appeals to you and you're like, ooh, this is something that I really want to focus on, I have a really intense, super in-depth course inside PDS with a link to a 7-day free trial below, which I'll put in the description box. And this link will give you access to our shadow work course, plus all of our other courses. You can check out Test the Waters 7 days for free. And the course basically is really in depth about shadow work. It's like very solution oriented, very targets the subconscious mind. And it combines reparenting skills and tools in there also. It's a really powerful course, one of my favorite inside PDS. So your shadow will essentially become, because these places you've rejected these aspects of self, is sort of like a blind spot in how you show up. So it's something that's still there, but it's often hidden. It's sort of like behind the scenes, so to speak, because we've done this, we've rejected our loudness or whatever trait it is that we're focusing on in a way without our premeditated conscious awareness. We're not like, oh, I have to never be this way in order to receive love. We're not doing this with traits all the time. It's something that's sort of happening as a subconscious coping mechanism. So what often happens that we don't see, and this is a really cool part of shadow work, is that these things that we're rejecting in ourselves end up being the things we are rejecting in others, and also end up being the things that we are not recognizing we still are expressing a lot of the time, but just in a hidden form where your conscious mind can't recognize it. And so it's really powerful to do shadow work, because you may see that the things you're judging in other people are yours too, but in these hidden ways. And when you can take ownership for those things and rebuild a healthy relationship to those things, you not only see so much more deeply into yourself, like have all these sort of aha moments and recognition moments, but also you get this really beautiful opportunity to have a healthier relationship to these traits, which then boosts your self-esteem. So what we're looking for when we're doing shadow work, one of the first major components of shadow work is being able to recognize where we may have blind spots into these hidden traits that are repressed within ourselves from our own conscious mind's awareness. However, we are still actually utilizing these traits in some hidden forms. A really good example of this would be, let's say that you're triggered by somebody else taking advantage of you. Okay, so you feel like somebody's taking advantage of you, and that really triggers you. Okay, so what would the trait be? So we're looking for the trait we're judging, and you might say, oh, this trait would be that they're advantageous or disrespectful or whatever it might be. And then what you're looking is, where do I express this exact same trait, but in a hidden form that my conscious mind isn't recognizing? And what we would look at are three main places. Where do I express this trait in the relationship to myself? Where do I express this trait in my relationship to someone else that I'm not seeing? And where do I express this trait perhaps to the person I'm judging specifically? Now, it's very helpful when we're looking for things appearing in different forms if we look across the 7 areas of life. So we don't want to just look at where, maybe somebody's taking advantage of you financially. Don't just look, oh, where do I take advantage of people financially? Look at, like, where do I take advantage of people in career? Maybe I ask for people's time too much to help me with my own projects, and I'm not realizing that I'm sort of doing that in an ongoing, unforgiving way where they may fall behind on their projects, and I have to be a little more respectful of their time, right? It may not be in these like malicious ways, but often we aren't seeing that there's these hidden forms of things taking place beneath the surface. So what's most often happening, and the biggest shadow trigger, is the things that trigger you in other people are the exact same things that you are the greatest executor of in an unhealthy way in the relationship to yourself. Okay, so the things that trigger you, so somebody's advantageous and you're judging them for that. Okay, where am I taking advantage of myself to please other people? Oh, that's a huge quality, right? So you're going to start seeing those links. Okay, so we're going to do one together, and I'm actually going to take you through steps. Step 1, okay, notice what triggers you about other people. And try to think of a recent time you were triggered, and think of the specific trait that triggered you about the person. So not the behavior, the trait, okay? And a trait would be somebody's reckless, somebody's advantageous. A behavior would be they drove too fast, right? And then the trait would be, oh, they're reckless when they're driving. Do you see? So you're looking for the trait. And the really important thing I want you to see here as we go through these steps are that, whatever's triggering you is about you. It's not about the other person. Like if a 2-year-old does something to you and yells and screams at you, you're not taking it personally, because it's not really igniting any of these shadow pieces. You're not making judgments. Any charged judgment, not discernment, charged judgment is a reflection of something in your shadow self. Okay, charged judgment about another person. There's still things that are like unhealthy and healthy, right? Like there's still things, if people yell, it's definitely an unhealthy thing, and you may want to set a really firm boundary around somebody always raising their voice and move away from that. But it's really easy to say, oh, that person's in an unhealthy place, I'm just not going to spend time around them anymore. Versus when you're taking it really personally and you're really mad and really upset and they're disrespecting me. Okay, well, you probably have a shadow self where you're disrespecting yourself in relationship to you. Okay, so step one, witness the behavior that you're judging and then label the trait from it. The person's driving too fast, they're reckless. The person's violating my boundary, they're advantageous. Okay, the person's being harsh in the way they're communicating to me, they're critical. Okay, step two, where is this trait mine in a hidden form? Where am I critical first to myself? Okay, where am I advantageous first of myself to please other people? Where am I reckless in the relationship to myself? Okay, so you're always looking at where does this represent how I treat the relationship to myself. This is usually the golden nugget for people, like the major place. And look in all 7 areas of life, okay? Career, financial, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and relationships, which can be friends, family, and romantic. Okay, so look across those forms for a minute, doing an audit, and feel free to pause the video and do this. And then the next step is, where am I critical towards the person I am judging? Okay, or where am I advantageous towards the person, so where am I? And you may have one of these, you may have all 3 of these. At least one will be there though. So look at the person, the trait you're judging in the person. Okay, let's say it's criticism. Where am I critical towards the person I'm judging? Oh, I'm criticizing them in my mind about them. Oh, they're always so critical, they're rude, I'm being critical about them in my thinking, just the way they were being critical to me in their communication. Okay, so you're looking, where do I execute this trait within myself? Where do I execute this trait towards the person I'm actually triggered by? And then where am I acting on this trait towards someone else in my life that I may not be realizing? So maybe you realize, oh my goodness, I'm really not critical with my coworkers, but I'm actually really critical towards my mother, towards my father, towards one of my children, towards, whatever it might be in your life. Okay, so you really want to just look, and usually we'll find some hidden golden nuggets in there as well. The things that trigger us, we're maybe also doing to somebody else in a different relationship. We may have justifications for it in our mind, which is blocking us from seeing it, like, oh, I'm critical about them, of course, because they're never on time. But how about communicate in a kind and respectful way? Right? So notice, and that's giving you sort of the cool thing about shadow work here is it gives you this full insight into like the relationship to yourself and your relationships to others, and helps you see those blind spots in ways you may not have been able to access before. And then your last step is, what is my strategy to improve this piece in any of those areas? What's my strategy to be less critical to myself and more kind? What is my strategy to take advantage of myself less and not people please other people? What is my strategy to be less critical to someone that I wasn't realizing I was critical to before? Okay, so you're really just looking for a strategy, and that's a deep, profound first couple steps towards integration. Now, there's, in the shadow work course, we've got a lot more detail. We've got very specific steps laid out with workbooks. We've got major, deep shadow work exercises going back to childhood to do some reparenting work, very profound healing type of stuff. Check it out for free with the link in the description box below if you want to check it and just sort of see what's going on in there. And let me know if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. I love talking about this topic. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.